All right, welcome back to our audience on television watching us in the Caribbean, and a warm welcome to our digital audience. And for those of you who are just joining us, here is the match summary of the game between India and Australia. India getting 352 for 5 on the back of 100 by Shikhar Dhawan. He also picked up the Man of the Match award. Virat Kohli also getting 82, but it was that one knock which doesn't really feature on our scorecard. 48 by Hardik Pandya. He got it off just 27 deliveries, which made a major difference to the total that India eventually got. For Australia, things never really got going. Yes, you've got Steve Smith with 69 and David Warner with 56, but at the end it was a bit too much. The team all out for 316, a 36-run victory for the Indian team. The two fast bowlers in Bhuvneshwar Kumar and Jasprit Bumrah doing the job for the Indian team. With me is Michael Hussey and Ajit Agarkar. We spoke about, Michael, the way the Australian innings started. But now let's go to, let's say, the 40th over. 110 needed in the last 10. I'm just looking at the Indian inning. It was in a similar position, but they reached 352. You think the wicket that Australia kept losing at regular intervals didn't allow them to get those 110?
Yeah, of course. I think that's what India did really well. They injected Hardik Pandya just at the right time to come out to play with that freedom. He got away with it. He could have been out very first ball. You think about those runs at the end of the game, and that's a big moment in the game. So, just a few too many wickets lost along the way. I thought the Indian spinners did a really good job. I thought they really tightened things up and made it difficult. Got that run rate required up and up, so made it tough for the Aussies. But, the Aussies fought it out. I think India had a bit more class in the batting department, with the power department, also in the spin bowling and the seam department, but the Australians weren't too far behind. And I think it just shows the value of having one of your top 4 batsmen go through to score that century. Shikhar Dhawan, he was the man to go on and score the century. None of the Australians could match that and go on. If Steve Smith had gone on and scored 100 and been there at the end, then maybe, just maybe, Australia could have got over the line.
Right. Let's take a look at how the innings progressed for both teams. If you take a look at India and Australia, and this is the innings breakdown there. In the first 10 overs, you could say similar, 41 and 48. 11 to 20 is where you could see a bit of a difference there. 70 for India, 51. And I'm just taking a look at the last 10 overs because that's where there is a stark difference. 116 for India and they're just 78 for Australia. This is where then the total or the pressure of chasing a total comes into play, and now explains why you'd rather bat in a World Cup encounter.
Yeah, and also the pitch, I guess, today, which did slow down a little bit. Start of the innings, I think Aaron Finch mentioned that they struggled a little bit against some good bowling. But that, we keep talking about Shikhar Dhawan's 100 or Virat Kohli's 80, Rohit's 50. Those runs at the end of the innings, even MS Dhoni, that little cameo of 27, Rahul finishing with a couple of boundaries and a 6, eventually add up. That 116 in the last 10 as opposed to 78. I know it's a chasing effort. But that probably made the difference. India could finish the innings well because they had wickets in hand, and the guys who were there at that position actually stepped up. So, perfect performance. Clinical. They showed why we've been talking that India is a better balanced team, and the spinners were just exceptional. The top 2 guys were really good, Bhuvi and Bumrah, but the spin, their figures might not reflect it. Where a few, it's a 316 that Australia scored, but the bowling was just exceptional.
All right, let's take you now live to the Oval Cricket Ground. Joining us is Melinda Farrell and Murali Kartik. Melinda, we're looking at how the performance was there from both the teams. But one thing that really stood out was the fact that, you had the Indian captain, Virat Kohli. The game played in great spirit. We saw at one time there were the crowds booing Stephen Smith, but then we saw Virat Kohli really tell the crowd to cheer him on rather than boo him.
Yeah, you did see that. The crowd was actually chanting cheat, cheat, cheat as Steve Smith went to field on the boundary. And a couple of times you saw Kohli just gesturing, which I think was actually in really quite good spirits. But going back, Kartik, to the Australians and their chase, I know the guys have been talking about it back in the studio, the pace at the top. I think David Warner faced 84 balls, 50 of those were dot balls, and then Usman Khawaja faced 39, 17 of those were dot balls, perhaps some not great running between the wickets. How significant do you think those factors were?
I think those guys alluded to it. I think the intent, sometimes as a bowler you know that if you're allowed to bowl at a certain spot, you've started well, but if the batsman allows you to bowl there, you continue to do that. That's what you want. And possibly the intent just in the way they started, and you're absolutely right. we saw how frustrated Steve Smith was because he was scampering around, and at the other end, Usman Khawaja was ambling. So that was something which was a bit surprising to see. So yeah, all in all, Australia, they would view the fact that they missed a few chances. Hardik Pandya or not made a huge difference. What Ajit was referring to, all the cameos in the end. When you get a chance and when you take it, then the next man coming in has some pressure. Over here, Hardik Pandya let loose, and then anyone coming later on, you're happy because the foundation has been set. And again, while chasing, yes, they all got runs. Huss refer to the fact that one of them could have gone on. Yes, absolutely, because when you got a set batsman, always while chasing, it makes for a big deal because of the fact that there is somebody there. As a team, you're always thinking, oh, this guy's still at the crease. So small things add up to a lot in one-day cricket, and that's exactly what happened. And that's exactly what Australia, in spite of looking really good, have faltered today.
Yeah, they probably did well to get as close as they ended up getting to India's total. But when you have a slow start like that, would you like to see Australia maybe throw, they've got the likes of Glenn Maxwell and Alex Carey there. Would you perhaps like to see them maybe throw them up the order a bit?
Yeah, exactly. That was a bit surprising as well because Steve Smith came in at 3, yes. Usman Khawaja didn't come in at 3, but number 3 still got runs against India, thankfully, in a losing cause today. Yeah, absolutely right. Usman Khawaja, was he needed then? Possibly Glenn Maxwell, Carey, whoever they thought could up the tempo, because Usman Khawaja did get, if you look at it, 42 of 39, but did it help? I don't think so.
No, they were almost batting as though they're a team with a long tail, and they're not a team with a long tail.
Yeah, exactly. You're right. People can bat down the order. Pat Cummins, Mitchell Starc, everyone can bat. And that is something which JL, Ricky Ponting, possibly Huss could answer, is what kind of tempo do they go at? We were talking about it off air. You mentioned that they have a regimented approach to cricket. Huss possibly knows them a lot better than I do. But having seen Australia for such a long time, what the guy said inside the studio and what we have seen match completely. It was a slowish wicket, but it was a good wicket. In spite of being a slow wicket, more than nearly 700 runs have been scored today. So yeah, there must be something going for the batsman. But yeah, intent makes for a big thing in cricket, and a bit of it was left wanting from the Aussies today.
India must take an awful lot out of this going forward in the tournament.
Yeah, big win. I think one of the teams built to be in the top 4, Australia, you take it any day. Possibly the 4th win out of 12 games in World Cup history. Again, Oval has not been a happy hunting ground. They've corrected that as well. So yeah, the first warm-up against New Zealand didn't go India's way. And 2-2. The rest and the fact that they've taken some time to get started, they'll be very, very happy because they've got New Zealand next and Pakistan next, 2 good games. But Australia, to beat them in any ICC tournament, World Cup competition, big tick.
Yeah, and it was such a complete performance from them as well. Was there anything that you would pick up that India could perhaps improve on?
No, not a lot. Because look, there's no point in getting finicky about all these things. They got to a sizable total, a record total against Australia, and against a side which has got lots of punches, they bowled well. Bumrah, Bhuvaneshwar Kumar, brilliant 2-2. And again, Steve Smith, you hardly hit him on the pads, and Bhuvaneshwar Kumar did that, which never happens on a slowish wicket. Beaten for pace, I guess. But yeah, I thought they did brilliantly. Just the way everything went, I thought it was a good game for India. Great game for India.
Certainly was. Almost a perfect game for them, you'd have to say.
All right, Melinda, good on Murali Kartik. He got one prediction right, one wrong. He said number 3 will get runs. Yes, they did. He picked Australia to win this game. That didn't happen. We've got Michael Hussey here who wants to ask a question to Kartik. But before that, Kartik, you wanted to ask a question to him about Australia's batting approach. You could ask him if you'd like, or I'll get Michael then to ask you a question.
I think just on that sort of way that Australia have a sort of formulaic way of who's going to bat where, and perhaps not being willing to take risks and make changes and
flexible.
Throw people up. Yeah. Do you think they're not as flexible, perhaps?
No, I think playing their natural game, Warner and Finch are generally very, very attacking opening players. So, you know, I think you've got to give some credit to the Indian bowlers. I thought they did an outstanding job up front. The Aussies would have loved to have got off to a faster start, no doubt. But I think also in the planning, it would have been around, right, let's keep wickets in hand. Let's get through this initial burst. If we can build that platform, have wickets in hand, they think they can probably chase down anything. It's very difficult if you've got new batsmen coming in against these Indian spinners. So I think that would have been the plan. But if they had their time again, and I'm sure they're chatting about it in the dressing room, they would have been saying we needed to show a little bit more intent up front against those bowlers. Yes, it was great bowling, but we need to put some pressure back on them, whether it's just being a little bit more aggressive or running harder between the wickets, whatever it may be, but just showing that you're up for the fight a little bit more.
Right. You had a question for Kartik on the spinners?
Yeah, Kartik, I just wanted to ask you, I'd be interested in your thoughts. We've spoken about how good the Indian spinners have been in this particular match and for a couple of years now. Adam Zampa, he struggled a bit today. What adjustments does he need to make in his game to take it to the next level and to be have more of an impact going forward?
I think Huss is talking about Adam Zampa. You've spoken so much about the Indian spinners and what they've done. What could Adam Zampa do to actually take his game to the next level from what you've seen?
I think with Adam, what I've seen is that if he starts well in a spell where he doesn't bowl many loose deliveries, then it's a great 10-over spell. But if he starts badly, in the sense there are a couple of loose ones which happened today, a couple of balls which were pulled, I think then he's always trying to bring it back. And I think that is something which he needs to work at. He has gotten big wickets. Look, if you look at his record in terms of the spinners in 2019, he has been amongst wickets. But it's those loose deliveries. Because in the middle, yes, you're looking for wickets from a spinner, but you're also looking for control. You don't want too many runs going away. And that's where the Indian spinners are very good. Very rarely do you see them being plundered or being hit. Yes, if the ball's wet, obviously any spinner is going to struggle. But if the conditions are dry, you'll see Chahal bowling well, you'll see Kuldeep bowling well, and that's where Adam, in terms of accuracy, because at the end of the day, why were some of the greats so good? Because of the fact that they were accurate. In spite of being leg spinners, yes, people always say that it's a tough art and you do end up bowling some bad deliveries. But if Adam Zampa starts well, I think it's as Wani always used to say, you get the first 2 overs, you're getting in. You don't want the captain to take the ball away from you, and I think that is where Adam can work. Otherwise, he's got the skills. He's not a big spinner of the ball, but you don't need to be. You need to turn the odd one, and if you get the accuracy right and do what you can against the batsman and what you want to do, I think he'll be really good.
Well, of course, we do know that Huss, you're a big fan of Nathan Lyon as well, and have been for a long time. So wonder when we might see him maybe later on in this World Cup.
Right, thanks so much for that, Melinda Farrar. Murali Kartik talking about Nathan Lyon. He did make a contribution in the game. He was there outfielding, took a stunning catch as well. Whether he'll make the 11, we'll have to wait and watch when the next match starts. Okay, I'm just going to continue with the discussion of the spinners. We were talking about Adam Zampa. What did you notice that the Indian spinners were doing differently? Why is it that Chahal was so effective here?
I think Kartik touched on it. Their accuracy was so much better than Zampa. Zampa came on. It's a daunting task. You're bowling to some of the best players of spin in the world.
Yeah.
You're coming on. You're the main spinner for the Australian team. You've got to start well. And unfortunately, he just bowled a couple of loose balls, which would have certainly affected his confidence. And yeah, unfortunately, it wasn't his best day today. But I think the difference between the two sets of spinners were the Indian spinners, they're so accurate, they're so disciplined, and that builds up pressure with those dot balls. Whereas the Indian batsmen, they knew they were going to get a loose ball here or there from Zampa that they could put away.
The other thing I thought today they did was bowl a lot slower.
Right.
I think got above the eye line of the batsman, but they were confident enough because made the ball dip or land on a spot where not a lot of times the batsman could actually get to it. I mean, even Warner, I think in commentary alluded to it that also they tried to get them hitting into the wind on one side, the side that Warner got out, square boundary. So all those things, I guess that eventually comes down to planning, but also the execution. I think they were exceptional today. I think both of them in the middle period, Australians were trying to sort of get out of the rut that they were in at that stage, just couldn't. I mean, even Steve Smith, as well as he was batting and could rotate easily, the boundaries just were not coming.
Right, we saw that with David Warner as well. The ball really not reaching him. He was trying to reach for it and then got hold out in the deep. But talking about the Indian bowlers, let's now turn our attention, to Bhuvaneshwar Kumar. What is it that we know about bowlers? We spoke about Jimmy Neesham. Should he make the 11 or not? He gets a 5-fer. There were debate about should Bhuvaneshwar be there or not. And now that he's been given those 2 chances today, really showing his worth for the team.
Yeah, I don't think there was a question whether Bhuvaneshwar should be there or not. I think over the last 6-8 months, Shami was playing ahead of him in the one-days. So, but once they started him in the first game, there's no doubt. And I think the more he bowls, the better he's likely to get. Just in terms of confidence, I think there's been a back niggle that's been hanging around for a while with him. And sometimes you need a little bit more confidence. The more you bowl, the better you start feeling about yourself. Today, again, great example. I think we spoke mid-show. Some of the Australian bowlers, when the new batsman came in, that's the difference, I think, between Bhuvaneshwar Kumar, Bumrah and some of the other bowlers. Just went length to Stoinis the first couple of balls. Good lengths, not sure as a new batter what needs to be done. Plus, you've got to score runs, got him out. I think even after that second wicket when the next batsman came in, again went length. Till then, he was obviously mixing his pace because he didn't want to let the batsman get used to one style of bowling. So, all those things, I think that's obviously experience and also skill.
I would love to put a pitch map down of the Indian fast bowlers, Bumrah and Bhuvaneshwar Kumar.
Your wish is our command. We'll have the pitch
the
map
Aussies.
right here just for you to take a look at how the Indian bowlers perform. You've got the first 10 overs. There you have it for the Indian fast bowlers. This is just with Bumrah and Bhuvaneshwar Kumar.
But they were just so disciplined. That they just kept hitting that good line and length. And if there's just a little bit of movement, they'll find it. And I'd love to put those stats up next to the Australian stats. And I'd bet you anything that they would be a lot more disciplined what the Australians were, and that just really clamped it up for India at the start. The Australians couldn't get away to that fast start that they needed to, and so the pressure was always going to be on them in the run chase.
Did you also see Bhuvaneshwar get a bit more swing in his bowling compared to what Mitchell Starc was doing?
I think it was more angle to the left-hander. I don't think there was a lot of swing on offer anyway. I mean, it got a bit gloomy later on, but I don't think there was swing. But it's just the accuracy. I think of all the Indian bowlers today, no real room. The lengths were really good, and there's pressure on the Australians. So they obviously didn't want to lose an early wicket. So the Indians just kept making life harder and harder for them, and a lot of credit. I think a really impressive performance from India.
The one thing that we saw with Australia that is very un-Australian in this match was their fielding. You talk about that drop catch of Hardik Pandya. Other than that, there was an instant where David Warner could have gone for a catch. Nathan Coulter tried one, was dropped again. I mean, you need to make sure that you catch on to these small little moments that can make a big difference.
Yeah, and you're right. Those little things can make a huge difference. The Australians generally pride themselves on their fielding. That Coulter chance was a tough one. But I've seen him take those before. And sometimes you need those 50-50 ones to stick. Sometimes it's just a confidence thing. If you're really confident in your game, you just go for it. And I know the coaching staff of the Australian team will be encouraging the guys to back themselves, to go for it. Don't fear making a mistake. And so that's going to be important moving forward.
All right, let's just see what it's done to the points table now. That victory for India, it's bumped Australia off from the number 3rd spot, and now India have gone there with 4 points. But Australia also with 4 points. Of course, they've played one extra game compared to India. All the other teams in the top 4 at the moment have played one extra game compared to the Indian team. One quick word from you, Ajit. We have very little time, but we heard from Virat Kohli at the end there. Clearly, he was hurt with that loss, that 3-2 loss to Australia. He said they really wanted to come and win this one.
Because Australia is a good team. I mean, in spite of that loss, there are lots of positives. I think Carey, we've not spoken about. That's a really impressive innings. So there are things they perhaps have something to sort out in their bowling, but otherwise they weren't too far away from chasing that down.
All right, Ajit Agarkar, Michael Hussey, thanks so much for joining us. I'm afraid that's all the time that we have for you at the moment. It's a win for India. 2 games, 2 wins for them. Australia, on the other hand, have now registered their first loss at this ICC Cricket World Cup. Thanks so much for joining us.